to my humble abode, my little corner of the internet. I'm here today with a wonderful book that I found while perusing the internet, looking to get into philosophy, learn about it a little bit. This book came highly recommended online. It's by Will Durant. It's called The Story of Philosophy. It was published in 1953 by Simon & Schuster, and it seems to be well-regarded, relatively authoritative text on the, main figures of Western philosophy. And here, in the beginning, I want to talk about the Greeks, specifically Plato. He had a Utopia that he was interested in finding, and he had a political solution here for the rascality of the guardian class or political class of this system, of this utopia that he had in mind. And these are direct words of Plato about this rascality and how he would solve it. He talks about, here, in the first place, none of them should have any property beyond what is absolutely necessary. Neither should they have a private house with bars and bolts, closed against anyone who has a mind to enter. Their provisions should be only such as are required by trained warriors, who are men of temperance and courage. Their agreement is to receive from the citizens a fixed rate of pay, enough to meet the expenses of the year, and no more. And they will have common meals and live together, like soldiers in a camp. Gold and silver we will tell them that they have from God. The diviner metal is within them, and they will therefore have no need of that earthly dross which passes under the name of gold, and ought not to pollute the divine by earthly admixture, for that commoner metal has seen the source of many unholy deeds, but their own is undefiled. And they alone of all the citizens may not touch or handle silver or gold, or be under the same roof with them, or wear them, or drink from them. And this will be their salvation, and the salvation of the state. But should they ever acquire homes or lands or monies of their own, they will become housekeepers and husbandmen instead of guardians, enemies and tyrants instead of allies of the other citizens, hating and being hated, plotting and being plotted against. They will pass through life in much greater terror of internal than of external enemies, and the hour of ruin, both to themselves and to the rest of the state, will be at hand. So a few things to unpack there. And we'll go on a little bit later about the other parts of this. But I think he makes a few good points. I think what he's basically describing is what nowadays would be called elected officials, or the political elite. And he mentions forcing them into a life of asceticism or asceticism, however you wish, however you prefer. But this life of asceticism, again, he says they will have common meals and live together like soldiers in a camp. So a Spartan lifestyle, fixed rate of pay, enough to meet the expenses of the year and no more. Gold and silver we will tell them they will have from God. The diviner metal is within them, and therefore they have no need of that earthly dross which passes under the name of gold. I think this is fair. I think it's a pretty standard anti-corruption stance, and I think someone could make the argument, presumably, that who would sign up for this sort of system? I think there's plenty of people who are down for a life of asceticism and of serving society for the betterment of society, for honor, as he mentions later. But you got to remember, we're a country of 350 million people. There's plenty of people. Even if you say that that's 1 out of 10,000 people, that's still 350,000 people. That's quite a lot of potential and potential guardians for such a system. And he's right, I think, to point out, but should they ever acquire homes or lands or monies of their own, They will become housekeepers and husbandmen instead of guardians, enemies and, enemies and tyrants instead of allies of the other citizens, hating and being hated, plotting and being plotted against. I think that's absolutely correct. I think he hit the nail on the head. And I think this sort of setup is precisely what the doctor ordered for our current society. Um, where does he speak about it later? So Will Durant here later talks about this arrangement will make it unprofitable as well as dangerous for the guardians to rule as a clique, seeking the good of their class rather than that of the community as a whole. For they will be protected from want. The necessities and modest luxuries of the noble life will be theirs in regular provision, without the searing and wrinkling care of economic worry. By the same token, they will be precluded from cupidity and sordid ambitions. They will always have just so much of the world's goods and no more. They will be like physicians establishing and themselves accepting a dietary for a nation. They will eat together like consecrated men. They will sleep together in a single barracks, with like soldiers sworn to simplicity. Friends should have all things in common, as Pythagoras used to say. So the authority of the guardians will be sterilized, and their power made poisonless. Their sole reward will be honor and the sense of service to the group. And they will be such men as from the beginning have deliberately consented to so materially limited a career, and such men as at the end of their stern training will have learned to value the high repute of the statesman above the crass emoluments of office-seeking politicians or the economic man. Well, that's very smart. I think that's absolutely the correct way to go about things to make their power poisonless and the authority sterilized. Um, I think that's absolutely correct, and I think it's also correct that where he points out neither should they have a private house with bars and bolts closed against anyone who has a mind to enter. I think it's correct that they should have access, we should have access to these ruling elites. I think this is absolutely fair. If they rule well, they have nothing to fear. And if they have something to fear, that should be proof in and of itself that they have ruled poorly. Um, and he goes on to say, but what will their wives say to all this? Will they be content to forego the luxuries of life and the conspicuous consumption of goods? The guardians will have no wives. Their communism is to be of women as well as goods. They are to be freed not only from the egoism of self, but from the egoism of family. They are not to be narrowed to the anxious acquisitiveness of the prodded husband. They are to be devoted not to a woman, but to the community. Even their children should not be specifically or distinguishably theirs. All children of guardians shall be taken from their mothers at birth and brought up in common. Their particular parentage will be lost in the scuffle. All the guardian mothers will care for all the guardian children. The brotherhood of man within these limits will graduate from phrase to fact. Every boy will be a brother to every other boy, every girl a sister, every man a father, and every woman a mother. And I think here he fairly points out the dangers of nepotism in and of itself, which I think it's fair to say that it is dangerous in and of itself. I think there's a certain amount of nepotism. I guess I would call it inheritance, which is okay. But there's most of it that we see nowadays goes, I think, way beyond the pale. I think a nepotism like getting a house or an apartment from your parents or inheriting it or some sort of material support as a child, I think is okay. But once you pass over into the realm of inheriting corporations or inheriting titles or inheriting the goodwill or connections to others or of others, I think that goes way beyond the pale of what should be acceptable in society. I think people should generally seek to have a society where the young start out essentially at zero. They all start off at the same level, so that is a fair competition. I think that is desirable for society, and I think that nepotism in and of itself is detrimental and undesirable in society. But let me know your thoughts, and I guess I'll see you at some point in the future. Deuces.